Source magazine, and I want to quote this: "Black people in the U.S. can nag all they want how the system is against black people, but if they saw how other people lived in Africa, they would see how blessed they really are." Do you still believe this today when you see unarmed black teenagers being killed by the police, when you see protests in St. Louis, in Missouri, where you lived for a long time, when you see people taking to the streets in Atlanta and New York to denounce police brutality against young African American men? Do you think the system really is for these people?
Well, the system was never for them.
So what made you say this?
Because when I said that, I was talking about the environment and where they live and the rights that they actually have and the blessing that they do, you know, have actual access to. In Africa, the way I grew up, let's just pick a project in New York, for instance. That's a 5-star hotel compared to the environment I came up in. Like, if they see how they live, they actually get money from the government. They actually are programs that helps the impoverished and the poor, and you get food stamps, and I mean, like, they have it good compared to Africa. You follow? There's a huge difference in how the government allocate funds towards poor and how the government allocates funds towards poor in Africa. The environments are not even left and right. If these guys were able to be taken from where the environment they're in now to the same equal environment in Africa, they would be crying to come back home to America.
But you say now that the system is against them. When you talk about
now let's get to the system.
Yes, through the
system. I was
system.
talking about way of life.
Right.
Now, as far as the system in America was never built for black people. And this is my personal opinion. I'm speaking for myself. I don't believe it was never built for black people because that system has never been changed. Those documents has never been altered. These things were made back in the 1800s, and these are the same exact literature that's down today. So mind you, at the time it was made, black people was never in a position where they were, you know, looked at as equal. So if it's the same documents that they're applying today in 2014, it wasn't meant for them.
What was it like growing up as a black man in America?
Well, in America it was a little different because I was a foreigner. I was African and I was very dark skinned. And at the time, dark skin wasn't really in style, so I was always getting picked on in school. So
But you were in trouble a lot.
That's what got me in trouble. It was frustration.
What got you in trouble?
Just, you know, the way I felt. I felt I was being mistreated and unfairly judged because I was African. So I was always in fights. And
you spent time in jail?
I spent some time in jail. Collectively about 3 years, but my longest bid was about 6 months.
What for?
Stealing cars and hustling. Yeah.
So again, what was it like then? I mean, when you see, you know, Ferguson, Missouri today, and you know, you hear of Michael Brown and Eric Garner and so on. Do you sympathize? Do you understand that experience that these people are denouncing today?
I clearly understand the frustration. What I don't understand is that how, like, if I'm in a position of where they are, and I don't want to speak too much from them because I think I may have some knowledge that they may not quite have, right? Because I've been in a position where I've experienced Africa and I've experienced the United States. I always felt like Africa was for Africans. So when I see African Americans in America dealing with all these issues, my first question is, why don't they just go back home?
Where?
Back to Africa. Will they be treated fair? Will they actually be praised for who they are because of the fact that they're American? They'll get way better treatment. They can invest their money back home.
But come on, Akon, how do you tell people who've lived for generations, centuries and centuries in one land to move back to a place they don't know? I mean,
no, but that's my point. They don't know. It starts with a visit. How many African Americans do you know actually consider Africa as a vacation spot? Not one. There's when you look at the overall population of African Americans, a very few percentage would decide to go to Africa for vacation. Would even, just for knowledge, just to know where they come from, just to get an idea of what that is. It's so much fear installed into them that they wouldn't even want to even go there to visit. You mentioned Africa, they start shaking.
I want to talk about women and your view of women.
I love women.
When you sing about them, they're called sexy chicks, and this is a clean version, of course.
Yeah, without being disrespectful. That's
Without
the best,
being
that's the only
disrespectful.
word I can use to describe
But
it.
yeah,
Yes.
sexy chicks.
Nice.
There's the infamous incident, of course, in Trinidad in 2007, where you were dancing very suggestively, to say the least, with a teenage girl.
Lighting,
Yeah. And I know this is not just you. I mean, in hip hop in general, women are called, names and so
It's just
on.
a figure of
I know, but I
speech,
wonder.
though,
It's just a
like-
figure of speech. But I wonder, Akon, can dehumanizing women be passed off as entertainment?
Well, I wouldn't call it dehumanizing. Like the women themselves call each other bitches more than we do as men. Like right now,
Really?
I promise you, if I was to sit there and listen to a female conversation, they'd be like, bitch, you so crazy, girl. But it's just a figure of speech. I just think some people are just so uptight that they don't just embrace personality. Like this is just loosen up.
So what do you respond to people who say that you don't respect women?
Nah, I mean, honestly, they clearly don't know me. There's not a woman in my life that will sit here and tell you that I don't respect women.
But you've urged women also to consider polygamy. You think a man should have several women in his
Well, I mean,
lives.
that depends on the culture you follow. I came from a different environment where you can marry more than one wife,
Let's talk about music, because